Welcome back to episode 71 of Canes Local. We'll take a look at the end of the Eastern Conference Finals for the Hurricanes, take a look ahead into free agency, and much more coming up next. Okay, let's the good and the bad and the ugly of the Eastern Conference Final. You know, we looked like we came alive a little bit at the end, but little too little, too late, I guess, as the old saying goes. So, thoughts on the finals and sort of the good and the bad of the Hurricane.
The better team won. At the end of the day, Florida. I mean, there's a reason why they've made 3 straight finals appearances, and it's not because they're lucky. It's not because of anything else. It's because that's a good hockey team. Like, that's one of the better hockey teams I've seen in a long time. Outside of, I mean, it's right up there with the Chicago, the LA's, like those 2010 to the 2010 to like 2015 run. They were as
Pittsburgh
dominant
and all those guys. Yeah,
where they just they don't lose. They don't have an off switch, and they can turn in any game. It can turn on its head. Even in the game that we ended up winning, that game could have turned on its head instantly. And the only reason it didn't was Carolina played a perfect hockey game. And that's what you have to do to get past those guys. And if you're not going to play perfect hockey, they're going to expose you. And any imperfection, there's not a better team in the NHL at exposing an imperfection. They knew we were short on that right side defense. I swear in that final game, they shot everything to the right side of the decor. Everything was going to the right-handed defenseman. And it was because Florida knows where you're weak. They know where you're vulnerable, and they're going to exploit the crap out of it. And I don't think there's a better team in the NHL at doing it. Every other team kind of sits to their game plan and just like, let's play inside of our system. Let's play our style. Florida's just like, let's play what style they give us. If they're going to give us a run and gun game, we can play a run and gun game. If they're going to give us a physical game, we can play a physical game. Like, they can play any which way you kind of want to slice it. The only team that I actually think can take them down is the Edmonton Oilers with Connor McDavid. That's at this point, I think they're going to lose a lot in the offseason. I don't think they're going to be as dominant next year, but the way they're going right now, I genuinely think if Dallas would have made it through, it would have been a sweep in the finals. So,
yeah, I mean, they're really good. I mean, there's really no way to cut it. And, you know, I know that a lot of fans of different teams, especially Leafs fans, are, you know, very upset as far as they took them to 7 games and they had the chance. And, you know, but I mean, yeah, they had the chance. But again, like you said, Florida in game 3 of that Toronto series, they turned the switch on and they didn't look back from there. Nope. I mean, they dominated the rest of the series, like dominated. So they definitely can turn the switch on. I mean, I think even Maurice said it either yesterday or the day before. This is the best team he's ever coached. Like,
it's probably,
and he's like, there's no disrespect to older teams, but to the other teams he's coached, but he's like, it's just a different level to this team. So yeah, I mean, they're really good. They dominate up and down the ice. I mean, offensively, defensively, in the net, like they're running on all cylinders at this point. So
yeah. I think the other thing too, to your point, to kind of jump onto your point too, Kyle, they're like, it's like sharks in the water. I mean, every other team, when you chum the water with mistakes, man, they are all over you. Like the game 5. I mean, Carolina made 3 mistakes and it was 3 goals.
Yep.
So
yeah, it was 3-2.
You just can't do it. You can't make a mistake against a team like that. And that's why they're so good. And I do agree with you, Kyle. I haven't been on board with the Oiler component, but I think they're the only team that could do it. I think they're the only team that can compete and match them, punch for punch, blow for blow. You know, based on not only McDavid and Draisaitl, but everybody else throughout that lineup it's just they have such a balance and depth. They have such depth to their program right now. It's more so than I've seen in a long time. And then they're getting good goaltending, so which is going to be really, really important that continues.
Yeah. Now, granted, this is going to be a tough one for Edmonton, because I'm trying to sit here and wrap my head. Has there been since at least the salary cap has been introduced, I know some of those Red Wings teams in the 90s and some of those other Edmonton in the 80s and stuff like, has there been a more like up and down the lineup, deep roster team than this Florida Panthers team? I mean, every single one of their defensemen could almost be a top 4 defenseman, if not top 2 pairing defenseman on a lot of teams. Their third and fourth line would be second lines on half of the NHL. Like, maybe the fourth line is a little bit, that's more of the identity line portion of it, but that third line with Marchand, that's a third line on 90% of the NHL rosters. And that's their third line. Like, it's just, it blows my mind how deep they've been able to construct this team. And I know it's not going to stay. There's going to be some movement in the offseason, which is going to be one of 2 big key pieces, which is going to hurt them significantly in either Aaron Ekblad or Sam Bennett. I don't think they're going to be able to keep both. So one of those 2 pieces is going to be out the door, possibly, unless they take massive discounts. But it's one of those things where it's, it can't last forever, and they do have cap space coming up in the after this season, but this upcoming season, I feel like they're going to lose a piece or 2 just because they're going to have to pay some guys that weren't getting paid that big beforehand. I mean, I think Ekblad was making $7 million. He's gonna get a pay boost. He's probably worth over 10 now. Same thing, Bennett. I think he was only making about 6.5, and he's going to be in the 9s. Should be anyways. So
I think he's making 5.
Yeah, like there's going to be some pay upgrades for some of these players that they're going to have to get onto the books. But granted, they have some good contracts too. Like that Mikkola, he's signed for another season at $2.5 million. Like what a contract that one was. I don't know where they picked him up from, but that's
I don't understand. Like, I think he was wasn't he with New York and Buffalo? I think wasn't he with both those teams?
He was definitely with Buffalo. That I do know.
I don't remember if he was with the Rangers or not, but I mean, he has just turned into.
He's really turned now, though, in the right system with the right partner, with the right coach, and whatever you want to call it. But he's really turned on a switch because he was not this player in the other team.
No,
in Buffalo,
I wasn't even close. Like,
and even for Florida, during the regular season, he wasn't as dominant as he was in the playoffs. He was by far one of their best, if not their best defenseman.
I thought, in the Kane series, I thought he was their best defenseman.
He was the most impactful.
Insane.
He was the most impactful.
Yeah. And the game he was out, obviously, the Canes got the win. Yeah. So if he would have continued to be out, I think the Canes would have probably had a better chance. He's just, I don't know, man. It's tough to kind of wrap your head around. But
he never played in Buffalo.
Really?
He started. He got drafted in St. Louis, got signed in St. Louis, then got traded in the Tarasenko trade to New York with Tarasenko, and then signed out of New York for Florida.
So it wasn't Buffalo. It was
St. Louis. Who the hell am I thinking of then in Buffalo? I thought for sure he was there, but anyways, prove me wrong. I like it.
Yeah, like I said, I mean he was great in that series, and yeah, I mean the Canes just didn't have the ability to match their depth. They really didn't. As I mean, the guys that the Canes picked up, obviously, Carrier had 0 points through 15 games in the playoffs. Like, that's not okay. The only reason they picked him up was because he was a producer in the playoffs. He was an impact guy. I thought he played well.
I was gonna say I wasn't hanging on him.
He had no points to show for it, which is tough.
He
was stuck at the fourth line.
Yeah, he didn't play a lot of minutes. I mean, I said this along the way. I don't remember who the hell said it to, but I was like, I wish I'd see Carrier with another 3-4 minutes a game, or 4 or 5 minutes a game.
Just the physicality portion of his game.
Yeah,
I thought,
get him
especially
in that 15
Florida
minute
series. In the Florida series, I feel like I noticed him a lot more than I did in the first 2 series because he was the only one willing to go in and match the physical presence inside the corner. I would have almost agree with you, Dad. I would have almost rather seen him go up to like the second line or maybe even that top line, just to allow some of those playmakers to have a little bit more space, because that's what we didn't have a space creator on either one. Svetch was kind of doing it on that top line, especially in the first 2 series. It became a lot more difficult to do it in that final series against Florida because Florida can match anybody's physicality. And then you have that second line without KK on it for the first 3 games of the series, or for one of the games of the series. But like even that, they didn't have a line driver. There wasn't somebody that was going to go in the corner and get the puck. And then we had 3 of them on the same line in Martinook, Stahl and Carrier for the longest time. It's like you got to spread the wealth a little bit on that front. I know I'm the biggest component of not wanting to see like Jordan Martinook or William Carrier on a top line, but in a series like that, you almost have to. You almost have to split those three guys up and just to put it throughout the lineup, and you have to be able to match the goal scoring from all four lines, and we just never got to that point because it's like if you throw. Yeah, I don't know. You throw Logan Stankoven in and then Jordan Stahl's in the middle, and you put Taylor Hall on the other wing. All of a sudden, Stahl's a line pusher on that line, and he's going to create space for Stankoven and Hall to get open. And then you throw Kotkaniemi with Carrier and Jackson Blake or something like that. Now all of a sudden they have a line pusher. Like that was where I felt a little bit frustrated about this series is like we didn't make those adjustments. When usually the forward lines go into a blender, I didn't feel like we ever really put them into a blender to try something different. Even though we were down 0-3 in the series, we really kind of kept to the same lines the whole time. I mean, we flip-flopped, put Stankoven on the third line, what was Stankoven on the third line. We moved Blake back up to the second line, and then it was Carrier went to the fourth. Like that was the big line adjustments. And it's like we just pushed our heaviness back further into the lineup and didn't allow them to play the minutes.
Yeah, I know. And I think the other thing too is to your point is the Florida defense are just so good. They're so big. They're so quick. And the thing with Florida is they're quick up the ice. They don't mess around. They don't go D to D too much. They go north. And I think that's the biggest thing when you get that physicality. You got to have somebody that's in there on their D, pushing them hard below the goal line. And we didn't get there quick enough. I think we allowed them. And quite honestly, I don't know if you guys saw the same thing I did, but man, Florida just adjusts so easily.
The whole series was an adjustment. If you go back to the Toronto
straight
series,
up the middle of the ice, we were giving them. They were, we were taking the wall away. At the end of the day, where were they going? Right up the gut.
If you go back to that Toronto series, we were just talking about the defensemen getting the puck up quick. They were not moving the puck up as quick in the Toronto series because the Toronto doesn't pressure as much as Carolina does. Like in all three series they've played three different styles. In that first series, it was like a skill-ish style, but not a very fast pace. Like I thought they just dominated with just passing plays and skill and just being able to control the play down low. The Toronto series was a little bit more tight defensively. There was more puck possession. It was kind of hold the puck, wait for your opportunities, and then pounce on them. And then the Carolina series was just dominated by physical play. They played three different styles of game throughout this series, or these three series. Like it's very hard to get a team to adjust to one style and commit to that one style. The fact that Paul Maurice can just throw out a different style at these guys and they're going to buy in and do the exact thing that they did. Yeah, because in that Toronto series, the walls were wide open. They used the walls significantly. They were just constantly hitting the walls. Carolina, they never went up the wall. Not since not even in game one did they go up the wall. There was no adjustment period. They were just instantly like, this is what we have to do. Okay, cool. We're going to do this exact thing, and we're going to do it on repeat, and it's going to work for us. And lo and behold, they're back into the Stanley Cup final. So clearly something worked.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. No, but again, more power to them. Obviously, they're off and running to probably. I mean, we'll see. How Edmonton can kind of. Edmonton just has to outscore them. They have to score 5 or 6 every game because I don't think that Skinner's going to be able to hold the Panthers to 1 or 2 goals a game. I just don't think that's going to happen.
But
again,
Edmonton's got every capability of scoring 5 or 6 in a game.
Yeah,
that's what I mean.
That's why I think
they have. Yeah, that's why I don't disagree with they have every chance to be able to do that. And you look at these 2 teams that are in the Cup final. I mean, they have something the Canes don't have, which is a legitimate first and second line center. Canes just don't have that. They really don't have that. I mean, both these teams that are in the final. I mean, you got McDavid, Draisaitl, first, second line center.
McDavid and Draisaitl have been playing together, so it's been McDavid and Nugent Hopkins.
Sometimes they play together, yeah. It just depends, but
all playoffs they've been playing together. Basically, since round 1 against I forget who LA. It was after game 2. They switched. They put McDavid and Draisaitl together, and they put Nugent. It's been Nugent Hopkins with Evander Kane and who's the other winger on the other side? Zach Hyman until Zach Hyman went down.
Yeah. Yeah.
Nuge has been, but granted, I
He
totally agree with you. Nuge is
he's been
also a
good.
number 2. Like, yeah, that's a true number 2 centerman. Like Ryan
Yeah.
Nugent-Hopkins, you're 100%. And when they do put it to that Draisaitl as the second line center, all of a sudden you have 2 first line centers. So, but
Yeah.
Nuge is still that second line. And then you look at, I 100% agree, Cam. Florida has 3 second, or two, they have a true number 1 center, and then they have 2 second line centers. Because that Esa Lindell guy, or not,
Yeah.
is it Esa Lindell?
Yeah, it's Esa Lindell, yeah.
Or no, it's Listerainen. Yeah, it's Listerainen, right? He's the center.
Well, I thought he was the winger. He was the one that got hurt.
Yeah, he got hurt.
So
Yeah.
whoever
Lindell is-
that third line center is as well too, he's capable of being a second line center on most teams.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, it's Lindell.
like, it's just, yes, we need to figure out the center depth situation 100%. And Cam, I think that's a great segue into looking at
Yeah, exactly. Perfect.
what Carolina is going to move away from in the offseason as far as who's UFAs currently, what we think if they're going to re-sign anybody, and then who we want to, I guess, have as people that we are interested in bringing on board. So I'm going to go over who the UFAs are for this offseason for Carolina, and then Cam, we can go into the UFAs of who's available. So big notable names on the forward front. Jesper Fast comes off the books. Jack Roslovic comes off the books. Eric Robinson comes off the books. And Tyson Yost comes off the books. And then on defense, it is Brent Burns and Dmitry Orlov, both, as of right now, coming off of the books. If anybody, are you keeping anybody? Are you getting rid of anybody? What do you think? If you get to be Eric Tulsky for a day, are you bringing anybody of that group back?
I think the only guy that I would probably, depending on his health, I think Jesper Fast is potentially, for me, would be a depth guy that I'd want to keep, or a guy like Eric Robinson. I think Roslovic's gone. I think Orlov is going to command too much money, and I just think unless Burns takes an extremely friendly deal and is okay with being a 6'7" defenseman, then I think he's gone as well. So, or he may retire. I mean, you don't know. I mean, he's
not retiring.
He's in that age, but I think he's gonna play more. Yeah. So, I think the only 2 guys on that list that I could see coming back because they sort of fit the style of what we're trying to do is Robinson and Foss.
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, it's just Robinson. I'm pretty sure, I don't know where I heard this from, but I think Foss is basically done. I don't think he's going to play pro anymore. As far as in the NHL, he might go play back in Sweden. I'm trying to remember where he's from.
He's from Sweden.
Is he from Sweden? Mm-hmm. He might try and go play back there. But yeah, I've been hearing that he's pretty much done at this point. He has a really bad neck injury. So yeah, he was tough. I mean, he's a tough one to lose, because imagine the Canes had Fost for, the last 2 seasons, how much different it would have been. But, you never know. But yeah, I think Robinson, is going to be, they're going to pay him a little bit more. I think they'll probably pay him in the $1.5 to $2.5 million range, I would assume, for probably a couple seasons. And I don't think that's a bad deal at all. I think he's been pretty impactful, for sure. I think he was good in the playoffs as well. Got a couple points here and there. So yeah, I mean, I don't hate it, but yeah, if on the back end, I mean, yeah, or I don't care what Orlov commands. I don't want him back. Same thing with Burns. I mean, I really would prefer him not back, because if he's coming back,
he's not coming
Rod's
out
going
of
to
the
play
lineup.
him with Slavin.
Yeah, he's not coming out
so,
of the lineup.
For the love of God, just don't sign him. Like, I would love to get him on a deal. I would, but please don't sign him. Please.
Our first pairing D.
So if I'm ET, I'm not.
Yeah, our first pairing D pairing going into next season needs to be Jacob Slavin and Sean Walker. Like, if it's not those 2 guys, I'm going to be a little bit upset, unless we go out and get like an Aaron Ekblad or someone like that to really solidify that first right-hand shot defenseman. But I think Sean Walker has earned every bit of that capability to be that guy. So I really don't feel the need to go out and get a top number 1 right-handed shot defenseman, because I think we have that guy already here. Where my question mark kind of opens up is Scott Morrow 100% ready to go for a full season next season, or do you still feel like we need another right-handed defenseman in the offseason? outside of getting like an
think
elite top, if we can get an elite like an Aaron Ekblad, I think that Carolina's going to try and get that level of player. But if there's not that level of player, do you feel like Scott Morrow could take over from like I don't even like a Eric Johnson-esque player where it's like you're signing a little bit more of a veteran presence at the right shot defense? Would you go that route, or do you think Morrow's the guy for next season?
I don't know if, I mean, after his first game that he came in, he didn't play bad. I don't think he played that bad. I thought he kind of got a little bit more comfortable, but I still would love to see him probably play in the A for another year, really, just to develop more. I just don't think he's strong enough yet. He still looks a little timid. He was getting more comfortable as the series wore on, which is good. Because if you can look comfortable against Florida, then you can probably look comfortable against everybody else. So, but unless you go get out and get somebody, the big right shot defenseman, big name that
how about
command a lot.
How about a guy like Erik Karlsson? I mean, I know he's on.
He's
on
the
block.
No
way.
Yeah, no, but I mean,
not for the money.
I know
not
that, but
even
I'm
saying
that's what I've been. That's sort of the sniffs that I've been catching wind of. So.
I've heard it.
I get it.
Can I just say, even at 50% retained, can we please give Jacob Slavin a competent defensive partner for once in his freaking career? I'm so sick and tired of putting him with the absolute worst defensively responsible players and just expecting him to be amazing, because he's like the best defensive defenseman. But how about we get him somebody that he doesn't have to do all the heavy lifting, because we saw it in Four Nations when he had Brock Faber next to him. He's so much better when he has a competent defensive partner, and he can be a hell of a lot more aggressive. He can't be aggressive in our system because he's having to worry. We started seeing it, and we saw it in Game 4. Because Burns started playing competent defensively, he started taking more chances, and he took over Game 4 in that last series. We have to give him somebody that he can complement next to him. I'm just so sick and tired of him having dog water defensive partners between Dougie Hamilton, Tony DeAngelo, Brent Burns, and now we're going to give him Erik Karlsson. Sure, he put up 100 points 2 seasons ago. That's awesome. He is the worst defensive numbers in the NHL as far as defensemen go. I don't want any more of that. We were just complaining about how bad Burns was defensively, and now we're going to bring in a guy that's even worse? It makes zero sense to me. Yeah. I don't care what he does on the power play. I don't care what he does on X, Y, and Z. It's not a good signing. It's just not. And if you're going to bring him in on anything less than 50% retained, it's a horrible transaction. Horrible deal.
Yeah, I know. I don't disagree with you. I just that's what I've been hearing, and I just wanted to kind of I want to just chum the water a little bit for some discussion, because I think that's where people are heads are at with a top 2 defenseman, right-handed shot, long in the tooth. But he's getting older too. He's like 35 years old, so. I don't necessarily want it to happen either. And I 100% agree with you, Kyle. I think Sean Walker's earned the stripes, and I think he deserves to be up there to get the minutes and to give Slavin the opportunity to become, or to get even better. Because when Jacob Slavin has somebody on this side, and you're spot on with the Four Nations, that can handle the defensive side of the play as well as the jump in offensively, Slavin becomes a different player. And people don't want to see Jacob Slavin a different player.
No.
I guarantee you.
He's already good on Carolina. Just imagine he has somebody to where he can be aggressive. He can't be. Like, it's just, it rattles me so much, because he is like, he would be, I think he would actually be in Norris conversations if he had a competent D partner. Like, in all honesty, I think he would be in Norris conversations. And we saw it sort of that first year with Brent Burns. That was as close as he's gotten to a genuine competent defensive partner outside of being with Brock Faber in that Four Nations. But
yeah, I mean, it's tough to kind of pick that out, because obviously, like, if you put those two, like, even as an example, let's say they go out and get Ekblad, and they pay him a lot, and they put him next to Slavin. It's like, does Slavin possess the offensive firepower to actually capitalize when he's been the defensive shutdown guy forever? Can he flip his game and basically say, okay, I'm going to become a two-way now instead of just a shutdown? Like, he's never really been a big points guy. And I understand, part of that is some of the partners he's had. But again, I mean, you see even guys who are two ways, like you see a lot of guys that don't necessarily have the best partners that still put up a lot of points that are still really good defensively. Like, you still see that. So I don't necessarily, I just think if you're going to put somebody who's offensive minded next to Burns, they got to produce. Or sorry, not next to Burns, next to Slavin. They have to produce. They have to produce a lot of points because that's what the Canes thought Burns was going to do. And Burns hasn't produced points in 2 years, really.
Yeah.
Like he barely scored at all this year. Did he have more than 10 goals? I don't think he did.
No.
I think he had like 6. So you're paying that guy that much money to be an offensive defenseman and he's putting up 6 goals? Like you can't. No, they can't do it. So hopefully they can get somebody that is offensive minded, whether that's in free agency or in a trade. Who knows what the asking price is going to be for a lot of these players. I mean, you look at Buffalo and basically half their team has requested a trade. So you never know if you can go out and get a guy like Dahlin. I know he's I think he's left-handed, but still, I mean, and I know Rod's going to pull his hair out if he has to play both left-handed on the first line. I don't know what he's going to do. He might let JD take over, but like it's, it'll be interesting to see for sure. I don't think the best transaction is going to happen with the free agents. I think it's going to happen in a trade. I think there's going to be a big trade that happens. I'm assuming Kotkaniemi is going to be part of it. I think he needs to move on. I don't know what you guys think about that, but I think we've kind of had this experiment, I guess you want to say. The Canes have had 3 third-line centers for 5 years.
Yep.
Realistically, they have not had a second-line center.
Ever since Trocheck, yeah.
They have a fourth-line center now in Jankowski. He's signed up league min for another year, and you can get him on a deal for years to come. He's still pretty young. Stahl, obviously, they got him locked up for a couple more years. He's still a third-line center, and him and Jankowski can be kind of interchangeable. I still think Jankowski can be a third-line center. I really do. I think he can be good there. I just don't think any of those 3 guys are a second-line center. None of them. And the only guy that you can really comfortably move off of because it's just not working out is Kotkaniemi. But unfortunately, I think you're going to have to retain some salary on him because I don't think a lot of teams are going to take that contract.
Or you're going to have to give up more.
But
it's going to have to.
Or you're going to have to give up a little bit more.
Like if in that hypothetical we were to move KK with to Buffalo, in that trade, if we were to get like an Alex Tuch back, it wouldn't be a 1-for-1 swap. We'd have to send like a prospect with KK in order for them to take on that salary because they can take on the salary with no problems and they probably wouldn't mind to do so, but they're going to ask for more in return, just in that regard. But before we completely get off of the Canes and go into the free agency portion of it, I wanted to go back to that Morrow conversation. Just one final counter kind of punch to that in he played 75 games or 70, no, not even. I think he played 68 games in the AHL this season. He had 50 some odd points. I don't know if he has anything else left to prove in the AHL. And I think the only thing that he actually has to do at this point is, like you said, Cam, get more comfortable in the NHL. And that comes from just playing a full season. I think if we as an organization feel that Scott Morrow is a high value prospect, or we feel like he's a high value target, I don't think putting him back in the AHL does him any good moving forward because he's already proven that he can dominate the AHL. So now he's got to get comfortable playing in the NHL and playing those minutes. And so if we are not going to get a top right-handed shot defenseman, I think you just let Morrow play. And that's just kind of my personal opinion on that.
If you're not going to get if you're not going to get like somebody that's going to change the outlook of the team for sure.
Yeah.
Like
Aaron Ekblad,
he probably still plays anyway.
Well,
because we're losing. Well, no,
we're only losing one. We're losing
Chatfield
one right and one left shot.
We're only losing one.
Yeah, and Nikishin is guaranteed to be that left shot defenseman next season. He has earned every ounce of that stripe and respect. So that's the other reason why I also don't want to go out and get Karlsson, is because then it forces Rod to give faith in maybe some of his. Yes, we'll still have Sean Gostisbehere, but instead of having Ghost and Karlsson running the point on the power play, maybe we could have on that second unit an Alexander Nikishin or a Scott Morrow running that unit to prove like, hey, I'm I can play at this level and I can do this. The only reason I'm saying Nikishin too is his one-timers. He shot like 3 pucks in the finals that were above 94 miles an hour. Like he's got an absolute cannon.
It was heavy.
And he's the highest scoring KHL defenseman in the last 7 years running or whatever it was, however long he was there. But I think that maybe even putting the combo pair out there. But if we go out and get a guy like Erik Karlsson, there's no shot either one of those guys see power play time next year. So, like, that's just where I'm, like, even more I don't want to go. And Morrow wouldn't see ice time next year, which I think is going to be detrimental to wherever he is, unless we move off of Jalen Chatfield. I don't see it being Sean Walker. We signed him to a 6-year deal at $3.6 million.
Yeah, that's a steal.
Yeah, it's a steal.
He's making $600,000 more than Jalen Chatfield, which, granted, Jalen Chatfield's on a good contract as well, too, because I love Chatfield's game. But
I think
if we're bringing in a right shot defenseman and Morrow's playing, I feel like out of the 2 guys that would be leaving, it would be Jalen Chatfield. Plus, he's only got this year and next on a contract.
Yeah.
Yeah, you never know, too. I mean, they may be, kind of, if they don't see a fit for him in the lineup, I mean, he may be part of a, trade bait, for somebody that's looking for a young prospect defenseman that, just maybe can.
Talking Morrow?
I'm talking Morrow, From a trade perspective, I mean, he has some significant value that could get you something that we were just talking about a little bit, a sniff at and Cam Cobb mentioned this yesterday, we do have a perfect second line center, and that really is Sebastian Aho. So we don't really have a true number one. So
I think we're missing that one piece. Yeah. But there's very few of those in the NHL.
No, I get it. So that's what we'll talk about here coming forward in the free agency side. But, but nothing against Aho. I think he's absolutely invaluable to this team. But we need somebody like a Sasha Barkov or like a, obviously McDavid's a unicorn, but a guy like that, or a true, like a Sam Bennett type, to be that second line to give you a 1-2 punch, really have a 1A and 1B, quite honestly, or a 2A, a 2B, however you want to look at it. But I think that's where, a guy like Morrow can add a significant value to a team that has a number one center, but they're in a rebuild. They're defensively inept. They need growth. They need depth down the road. And he could be that and get some meaningful minutes for a team that he may not get here.
My only counterpoint to that is, do we feel like even next season, depending, granted, a lot of this depends on how we spend our money in the offseason, but is this Carolina team with a lot of the young guys that we do have, I mean, Stankoven 22, Nadeau 20, Blake 21, Kokeniemi 24, Jarvis 23, Andrei Svechnikov 25, Aho 27. With is still a younger core. Aho's getting up there. We need to kind of start turning the corner now. But with that young core, do we feel like we're right on the cusp? I get we're just in the Eastern Conference Finals, don't get me wrong, but let's call a spade a spade. We kind of had an easy run to the Eastern Conference Finals. Neither one of those other 2 teams were any good. Like, Washington was a good team, but we look at them last year and they were basically barely made it into playoffs, and they had an unbelievable miracle run, but we kind of all saw it that they weren't going to be a true standout. Are we at the point now where it's like, we got to buy, we got to sell and buy what we need in order to be a Stanley Cup contender? Or is it like, hey, we still have probably a year or 2 before some of these guys are really hitting their prime? And then all of a sudden, then it makes sense to start selling off assets at the younger ages in order to really get those guys, because I don't want to, and like, this is another thing to go back to Erik Karlsson. I don't want to keep adding age to a young core, because I don't think age is what this core needs. It just needs a little bit more time, because all of our top guys, you look at our first 2 lines, outside of Taylor Hall, who is really playing on that line, and we can say kind of Stankoven can interchange with Hall or Blake can interchange with Hall. Every one of those guys is 27 and under. And outside of Aho, it's 25 and under. Like, if we were looking at any other team in the NHL, we'd be like, oh, they're a young developing core, like, give them a couple years and they're going to be something special. We're already something special, and we have that young and developing core still. So with all these guys possibly taking that next step, does it make sense to sell off a guy like Morrow to add an aging piece if we're not sure we're there yet? Are we there yet? That's kind of, I guess, the question I want to leave at. Is it like, do you think we're 1 or 2 pieces away from being a true Stanley Cup contending team, or do you think we're probably 4 or 5? Because as of right now, I think we're more 4 or 5 than we are 2 or like 1 or 2.
Well, I mean, it really depends, because like 4 or 5 could become 1 or 2 trades. You know what I mean? So
100%.
for me, I don't think it's. I think it's more about
what we add,
what you're getting in return from whoever you're shipping out. You know, I mean, obviously it's. I mean, not to say that it's not working. I mean, obviously they've been to 2 Eastern Conference Finals in the last 3 years, so it's been good from that perspective. But I just don't. I don't hate adding age. You just have to add age with the right contract, because again, with these younger guys coming up too, I mean, they're going to be restricted free agents at some point, and you're going to have to sign them to contracts if you want a guy like, you know, Blake. Stankoven, you have to sign Stankoven. I'm not saying you have to sign Blake. I like Blake a lot. I think
they're
he's really
the exact
good.
same player, though. The two of them, it's like we have 2 of the exact same player.
Sorta, yeah.
What do they do very differently? Because they're very small, they're fast, they're hungry on the puck, they're sneaky in and out of traffic. I think Stankoven's a little bit more physical than Blake is, and a little bit more in your
physical.
face.
I think Stankoven's better forechecking on the puck, so he fits the Canes style more. I think Blake has more skill. So Blake has more one-on-one skill. Like you've seen him, you know, he can drive the play to the net on the power play specifically. Like he can be that driver that can kind of go after it. I think Stankoven's kind of more like Jarvis, where he's kind of a bulldog. He's just going to get in there and get the puck and, you know, get after it. And I think for Rod's system, Stankoven fits better than Blake. So again, while Blake has some value too, maybe you trade him out to bring in a first line center, or bring in a guy that's big. I mean, you know, you look at too some of the free agents. I mean, there's a guy like John Tavares that's a free agent now, and he put up over 70 points last year. He had almost 40 goals as a center. You think Aho and Tavares is a 1-2? I mean,
not a bad punch with it's just. Is that, I don't know, that gets us.
I know
over
the age.
hump.
I get it. He's 34. I mean, you'd only sign him to at most like a 5-year. I would think. Like that would be the most. But who knows? Maybe he's looking for a 7.
I don't see him leaving TO. Like, in all honesty, like I just don't. That's the one guy where I like, out of everybody in TO that I could see possibly leaving, he's the one where I think he'd almost be willing to take like a $2 million a year contract to stay in TO. He like that boy loves Toronto.
Well, it depends on how much. I mean, if Marner wants the world, then they won't have a choice.
Yeah.
You know, because even $2 million becomes like, well, okay, well, we can sign John T for $2 million, or we can go get 2 guys that we need for the lineup for $800,000. You know, so that becomes the predicament that they come to. So it'll be interesting. But yeah, I mean the there's some interesting unrestricted free agents. I'm more interested in the restricted free agents. There's a lot of good restricted free agents that I think you could see a lot of offer sheets this year. I really do. There's a lot of really good ones there. I mean, I'll go down the list of just a couple here, but I mean, they got JJ Peterka, Evan Bouchard's a restricted free agent this year too. Gabe Velarde, Marco Rossi, Matthew Nyes, Ryan McLeod, Mason McTavish, Will Cooley. Like, that's just some of the guys in the top 10.
Yeah.
I mean, any one of those guys would be a huge ad for the Canes. I mean, the Canes tried to get Nyes. Or no, they didn't. They tried to get Marner. They tried to get Marner. Yeah. And then Toronto was like, we'll give you Nyes. And they said no. So, but I think you talk about a big winger that can be physical and can score goals. I mean, look no further. You know, I mean, I don't know. I think that I do agree that I think Toronto's going to do their best to try and keep everybody together. As much as they say they want to change DNA and all this other kind of stuff, I really think they do sign Marner again.
I do too.
I don't know what the deal is going to be, but I think they do. I just think it's going to be at the expense of Matthew Nyes.
It is, because they're not going to be able to afford both.
So. They're not going to be able to afford them.
Yeah.
No. So they're going to trade him. I just don't know where they're going to trade him.
That's where I see them keeping Johnny T as well too, is because of the fact that I don't think they're going to be able to keep both Marner and Nyes, and so they're going to offload one of the two of them, which is going to open up some space, and that's where Tavares still comes in. Because like I said, he's going to take a team-friendly deal because he was just on a $10 million a year contract for 7 years, knowing that he was not worth that amount of money. and this is his hometown team. He wants to win with this team. I don't see him leaving Toronto. Like, out of everybody in that core, I could see Marner leaving. I could see, I could see Nylander requesting a trade. I could see Matthews requesting a trade. I could see a lot of guys wanting out of Toronto. I don't see Jonathan Tavares leaving Toronto. Like, that's just maybe my personal opinion, and maybe he ends up, in San Jose. Who knows? But I don't see him leaving TO. So.
Yeah.
Just depends on what he wants.
Unless they don't offer him a contract at all. And then, then he's kind of forced by hand to go.
He's got
he doesn't really have a choice, but I don't see him leaving.
He's making 11.
One name that is very interesting, Cam, I've kind of already talked to both of you guys about it, but I wanted to kind of bring it up as well, too. Buffalo, as Cam was saying, a lot of guys want out. And one big name that wants out that I would be very interested in seeing is Alex Tuch. Is requesting a move out of Buffalo, and talk about a big, heavy winger who can do it in playoffs and has done it in playoffs. Alex Tuch is one of those guys, and I think would just be a very valuable add to Carolina, and maybe we can get a package deal and get the big man out of there too.
Yeah.
That's going to be the issue with that one is that I think if you were to add in Tage Thompson, then all of a sudden Kevin Adams becomes delirious and wants the world and more. With two guys leaving, he's going to want a boatload. So the request back is going to be, let me have either Blake or Stankoven. Let me take Svechnikov and then a couple prospects. And it's like, no, that's not what we're going to be willing to give up. But that's what Kevin Adams is going to be requesting, seeing as what he has dealt with as far as trades are in the history. They don't like moving off of their guys unless they feel like they're absolutely winning the trade, which in the NHL just doesn't happen that often. A lot of times it's a very 50-50 split, and sometimes you lose the trade. Like, that's just the bottom line. And so I think if we were to go just get Tuch or just go get, I just think they're going to ask too much of Tage. So that's where I struggle with going to get him, is because it's not going to be Kotkaniemi, a first, and a prospect. That's not going to get Tage Thompson. It's going to have to be Svechnikov, Aho, Jarvis, Blake, Stankoven, the 2 first, and a prospect in order to get to. And I don't think I'm willing to give up all of that outside of, and this is going to sound crazy, outside of Jackson Blake. I think if we were to do Blake, the 2 first, and a prospect, maybe Nadeau, but I really don't want to do.
Yeah, Blake, Kotkaniemi retention on some Kotkaniemi contract, Morrow, and 2 firsts, and maybe a second or a third
for Tage Thompson, and then Bowen Byram or someone else coming back, because we're going to need to refill that D slot. I
was just saying that just for Tage.
Is Tage worth that much? Is he making that big of a difference in this team as a 30-year-old?
Yes, he is. He would do. I mean, that's literally your number 1 center right there.
I think he's right on par with Sebastian Aho. So we have 2 second-line centers.
Yeah, but he's a goal scorer.
I get it. I'm not.
That's the difference.
I'm not taking that away.
He's a driver. He drives the play. I'm not. Again, we're not taking away from Aho. We're just trying to reason our way through. Like, he's had 40 plus goals on a horrible Buffalo team forever.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Buffalo's been awful forever, and he's still putting up 40 plus goals a year. He's been on a line with some donkeys. Like, they have been terrible, and he's still putting up 40 goals.
Yeah.
So he can do it himself, and that's what you need. So, I mean, I would love to, but again, Buffalo's weird because the NHL never really knows where they kind of stand with them. Like, other teams don't know where they stand. Are they in a rebuild? Are they trying to build to get something else? Are they trying to sell? Are they trying to buy? And I think all that goes back down to Kevin Adams. Like, for the sake of the Eastern Conference, everybody hopes Kevin Adams stays. But if Buffalo wants to get, and I know I don't want to talk this in a tangent of talking about Buffalo and their issues. I mean, they got a lot more issues than just the GM, but he worries too much, like you had said, about winning the trade. He just wants so much for the guys that he has, and which is fine. You can be like a development team for the other teams in the NHL, I guess. But where's that going to get you?
I know they're kind of like, and you guys can know this reference. They're kind of like in F1. You got your teams that are development teams for Red Bull,
they're
for
Haas,
Mercedes, for So they're like the Haas of F1 because they're not expected to do much. They just make a lot of noise. It could be like Adams is like saving, I did this, I won this, but you're gonna take that shit to the grave with you because you're never gonna win because you're never gonna win.
Yeah.
I mean, do you want to win the trade or win a game or win the series or win the cup? I mean, so you have to make that call, and I don't think he's there yet. And, so
I just don't think they don't have a good coach either, man.
that was going right there next, man. I think Lindy Ruff's not the right coach for that program.
Nope. No. They don't know how to build the team because they don't know what they don't really love the coach. If they loved the coach, they'd be like, all right, what do you need, coach? Like, what do you want? What do you want to build? How do you want to build this? Because then it doesn't matter who you sell. It's just a matter of who you get back.
So I think
that's what
Kevin Adams would be willing to do that. But I don't think Lindy Ruff knows what he wants. I don't think he knows what style of hockey to play anymore. He went into the New Jersey and they had a lightning hot regular season for a stretch of games, but that was because they were scoring 7 goals a game and they were still allowing 5. Like he doesn't know how to play defense in this system anymore. In the new age of hockey, he doesn't know how to play defense. And his teams have never been able to play proper defense. And so it's like, okay, yes, you need an absolute overhaul of the coaching staff. And I wouldn't be surprised if there's a name floating around, McDougal out of the QMJHL. He's going to be a head coach this probably upcoming season. Just don't know where. I would not be surprised if Buffalo takes a stab at him. If they do something smart in this offseason, they're going to take a stab at a new head coach. They haven't fired Lindy Ruff yet, so I think he's going to end up staying. But if they had any level of intelligence, you need to take a stab at a new coach, and it cannot be a coach that has been in the league forever. It has to be someone new. It has to be somebody that understands these kids. That's why I'm saying go look at the Q. Go look at the NCAA. Find your guy there because they know how to talk to these kids that are 18, 19, 20 years old and how to get through to them and get them to play a style of hockey. And they understand the new style. Buffalo just goes back to this carousel of let's grab the oldest guy with the most NHL experience. Well, half those guys don't know the new game and they don't know how to coach the new game. And you're seeing it. Peter Laviolette, same thing. He kind of gets the team going because he can kind of hoo and rah them and the guys know how to play. But then when it comes down to the sticks and stones time of the year, when you actually need a defensive scheme and a system to play, they fall apart. And there's a reason. Again, John Tortorella, same thing. They've lost the ability to know how to coach in the new age. And that's why you're seeing all the best coaches, it's like their first coaching experience. Granted, they've been, but like John Cooper, outside of Tampa, where was he before that? I don't think he was a head coach before Tampa.
No.
That was his first coaching job. Rod, first coaching job. Who else has been first coaching jobs that have had high success as of late? Now, granted, Paul Maurice is a different story. He's figured it out, but he's also inherited an absolute unbelievable hockey team.
Yeah.
But yes.
I mean, you got Spencer Carberry.
Carberry, perfect example. Yeah, another guy knows how to. Martin St. Louis. Look at what he's doing with Montreal all of a sudden. They made the playoffs. Like, you need new age coaching, and all these teams that keep hiring on. I wouldn't be surprised if Anaheim shit again this year. And it's nothing against Q. I think Q is probably one of those coaches that still has some gas left in the tank as far as defensive schemes and everything like that. But like, Buffalo needs some work. I guess we just got completely off topic because we were talking about free agents.
I apologize.
No, you're good. I'm sitting here halfway through that spiel.
Buffalo,
I'm like, we're talking fucking Buffalo right now.
But I would, as a Canes fan, I'd love to have Tage. I mean, there's a lot of guys.
Yeah. So let me pose this question because I think we're only going to do one big splash in the offseason, and one name that I'm starting to hear a lot more rumblings about due to all of the shit that just happened. Would you rather go out and get a guy like Tage Thompson, or would you rather go out and make your big splash in Dallas and go get a guy like Jake Ottinger? Because I'm genuinely in my unless they fire Pete DeBoer, which I don't think they're going to do, I think Jake Ottinger is going to be requesting a trade this offseason. Because I don't know if you guys saw all the post-game shenanigans that happened afterwards.
Yeah.
If I'm a starting goalie and I'm supposed to be the franchise of the future and I know I'm outlasting you and that's the way you want to treat me, unless you're getting fired, I want out. Like you got yanked after 2 shots. Granted, he let in both shots, but it was done in the most publicly displayed way where he calls a timeout, and then after the timeout, Jake Ottinger's skating back to his bench, and he's screaming at him, "Jake, get your ass back over here! You're done. You're no." That's not that reminds me so much of Patrick Waugh in Montreal, just hanging him out to dry. I think Jake Ottinger's out. I genuinely do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, God, man, that's a hard one to say because I don't know if we need more than that side of the rink, or we need something different. You know, it's going to be a hard one. I mean, I know Freddie signed for another season. But I wouldn't walk away from it if it was the right deal, and we could get the cap space to keep us, you know, in play for somebody to fill that second line role. You know, still, you know,
Well, even if
I don't know,
even if we were to get Ottinger without giving up any sort of roster piece, which would not happen in the world, we'd still have $19.5 million to play with.
Yeah, no,
So,
like I said, I'd
got a lot of
take
money.
him. I mean, I take him, and you know, because obviously Freddie came on a pretty team friendly deal. So I think Freddie knows the deal. He wants to be here. He doesn't want to go anywhere. But yeah, I mean, I take Ottinger, no doubt. I think he got a bad rap. I mean, I don't think the guys necessarily played well in front of him.
Nope.
And you got oiled. You know, you got oiled in the first period. I mean, you can't take a penalty, you know, right away. You know, put them on the power play. You just can't do that. You blow coverage, and you know Perry's standing right there. So, I mean, I don't put any of those on him, quite honestly. But at the end of the day, I guess Pete DeBoer did, and I love Pete DeBoer. I think he's a great coach. But I'm not necessarily on board with what he did and how he did it.
Nope. So. And then to double down in press conference after.
Yeah.
That's what made it worse. Sorry, Cam. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, you're good. No, I agree. I mean, I don't think it's a great look for sure. I really don't. But hey, I've seen weirder things happen with guys, you know, sweeping stuff under the rug. For sure. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if this is one of those where it just kind of, it's
blows
like, okay,
over. Yeah.
You know, Ottinger takes some responsibility and Pete takes some responsibility too. You know, I know Pete's just trying to throw a wrench into everything, trying to, you know, either just kind of a wake up call to his team and everybody.
The series was over after the press conference. That's what I don't get. It's one thing in the game, I get it, you're trying to throw it, but then afterwards, in the press conference, save your franchise goalie. The fact that he doubled down in the press conference afterwards, being like, yeah, I mean, in an elimination game, we have to have a save. Like, I don't know, we couldn't buy a save right now, and that's why I made that decision. It's like, dude, yeah, 100% agree with you, Dad. Sure, maybe he could get one of the 2 shots. Sure, maybe. Neither one are on him. Sure, maybe to wake up the team, you throw Casey DeSmith in, but don't double down in the press conference after when the series is over. You're not getting anything good out of it. You're just lighting more fires.
Yeah. Yeah. No, and I didn't, like I said, that was the part that I didn't, I mean, I get he was frustrated on the bench, and he was, you know, kind of directing it towards Jake when he was skating back to the net. But yeah, no, not in the press conference. I mean, you don't call a guy out saying, you know, he's 6 of 7 in elimination games over the last, or he's lost 6 of 7 elimination games in the last 2 years or whatever it is. So that's just not right. I mean, I get it. He's frustrated. He lost the series. But I think that the tagline was, if a coach is trying to get fired, this is the way to do it.
100%.
You know,
I mean,
so
yeah. So who knows?
So
I mean, there's a lot of I don't hate that idea.
Maybe he wants to go coach in Buffalo.
Yeah, maybe. I
don't think anybody wants to coach in Buffalo.
No, there's a
coach that could legitimately put that team back together, in my opinion.
Could he?
I think so.
Because
I do.
He's taken over. He had Vegas when they were the year before they won the cup. He had Vegas with them. He was in San Jose when they lost in the Stanley Cup Finals. He's been with Dallas where they've made the Eastern Conference Finals 2 times, and he's lost both of those times as well too. Maybe.
But they're in the playoffs.
100%. And if you want to make the playoffs, that's great.
So,
yeah.
I mean, Buffalo's not been in the playoffs for, gosh, I don't know how many years it's been now.
But again, he inherited the San Jose Sharks when they're at their peak after losing. They got swept by LA reverse swept by LA the year before. They were already in the playoffs as a playoff team, and that's when he took over, and that's when he already had a juggernaut there. He goes into Vegas, and granted, the Vegas draft situation, that was his best year. And that wasn't even him. He wasn't even there the first year. It was what's his name? The guy that was in Florida for that little bit of time and then got left in Carolina. Gerard Gallant was there for first 2 seasons, and
hey, there's another guy actually. There's another guy that
There's
another guy. You're right. That's the guy.
That's a guy that could do it.
Kevin Adams, Gerard Gallant is your next head coach, and he should be.
But then he takes Pete DeBoer then takes over a Vegas team that was already good, that was already established. And then he does the same thing with Dallas. So and the more I'm talking about this DeBoer guy, he's taking over these inherently great hockey teams and not doing anything with them. So we say Pete DeBoer is a great coach. And I'm not taking away the fact that I think he's a good people person and all that kind of stuff. Maybe he's not as good a coach as we're all thinking, though. But we could say the same thing about Rod. But also, again, Rod built this team from a non-playoff team, took it over, and made it into a playoff team. That's different. Pete DeBoer has inherited playoff teams and done nothing with them.
Yeah. So, well, again, we're spinning off
completely
off topic here. Yeah. So UFA.
There's one more.
What's that, Cam?
Sorry. There's one more name that I wanted to throw out there that I know he's requested a trade. Logan Cooley.
Yep.
I know he's requested a trade from Utah. 21 years old. He's a center. I think he's left-handed, which, again, not the greatest.
He's right-handed.
But, you can kind of deal with it. Is he right-handed?
And he's also a winger.
Even better.
Okay, well, good. Even better. Yeah, I think that's a guy because he wants out. So you can get Kotkaniemi going the other way with a couple draft picks for Cooley, for sure. Probably a first and a third.
Probably
with Kotkaniemi.
No, it'd probably be,
if they take Kotkaniemi's whole contract, 100%. I'll do that.
It'd probably be Kotkaniemi 2 first and a prospect. Logan Cooley was a top 5 draft pick, and he's
not if Cooley wants out. That's the difference. Not if Cooley wants out. Cooley wants out, so Utah's under the gun.
Carolina's
they gotta get him moved, or they're gonna lose.
Carolina's not going to be the only team putting a trade offer in on him, and Kotkaniemi a first and a third is not going to be the best offer they receive. Promise you for Logan Cooley.
You never know.
You never know. I mean,
don't.
He was a 3rd overall pick. I get it,
but
so
yes, it's you're not. In my mind, you're gonna have to give up Kotkaniemi, the 2 first we got from Dallas, and a prospect in order to even entice the trade into making sense.
I just don't see 2 first though. I don't see 2 first.
I
mean,
they're
I could see 1
late
maybe.
round first picks. It's not like they're basically second round picks. They're bottom 5 picks both years, basically.
That's
true.
So
yeah, but again, that's another guy.
Yeah,
young guy, center. We know he can produce points. He could definitely be the second line center for sure. He would be the bona fide second. So, and I just was looking because that's another guy that I know has requested a trade.
I would just
be
interested in how he plays center at the NHL level because he hasn't done it yet. And there's a lot of guys that never make that transition over to
Cooley?
Yeah, Cooley played on the wing all year this year.
Really?
Yeah.
I thought he played center.
No, he played on the...
It says on Puckpedia he played center.
They have Seth Jarvis listed as a center as well, too. So I take everything they have with a grain of salt. It's just if you take a bunch of faceoffs in a year, they're going to put you at a center/winger position. Does it have him listed as just center?
It does.
Yes.
Okay, maybe I'm wrong then, but I could have sworn he was playing on the wing for Utah. Because... who was it was Clayton Keller was the center for that line. It was Clayton Keller, Cooley, and who the heck was the other winger? Oh, Dylan Guenther. That's another card.
Yeah,
that's another guy too. Dylan Guenther is a good player.
I mean,
on the depth chart, it says he's the center one.
Yeah.
Like he's the first line center. That's what it says on here. So unless they're completely wrong, either way, 75 games played, 65 points. He had 25 goals and 40 assists as a 21-year-old.
Taking it all day long. Yes.
I'm taking that all day. I don't care if he played wing last year. He can, he can play center.
One guy that I
know he was drafted as a center.
One guy that I'm intrigued.
Just under a point a game.
Yeah, one guy I'm intrigued with, and I think we already have him. Logan Stakovic was drafted as a center as well, too. And I think he could also step into that role as well, which would need us filling a winger position. But I wouldn't be surprised if we look at that option down the road as well. Or, i.e., I don't know if he's played center in his career. I think he did in juniors a little bit too. Seth Jarvis, I think, could make a bid at being a centerman in the NHL. I know he's a little undersized. I get that portion of it, but he's a dog. He's so good defensively. He's great in the faceoff circle as well, too. I think he could genuinely make a bid at being a centerman. So unless we can get a bona fide center, I just but I think Logan Cooley is a great option. I think if we can grab him, if he played center all year, put him at 2C, sure. Yep. Let it run. It's just we get smaller still.
Yeah, I mean, he's not a big guy. He's probably Aho size. I mean,
not
6
even.
foot.
He's 6 foot.
Yeah. Oh, is he? I didn't think he was even that tall.
Foot,
I thought he was
6 foot,
like
191. Nope. Left-handed shot.
I think if you're not gonna get, which I don't think the Canes are gonna get a guy like Bennett. I really don't.
I don't think he's leaving.
I think
Florida.
Bennett's in this perfect world where he can literally choose to go wherever he wants, and they'll pay him whatever.
And he's gonna stay in Florida.
He could go wherever,
and he's gonna
literally wherever he wants.
He's going to stay.
He can pick wherever, and they will sign him. So
yeah,
I don't know.
Sam Bennett, you are a Florida Panther.
Yeah,
he probably
he's gonna sign. He's gonna sign a
6-year,
$7.5 million a year deal.
Do they even have that much cap
space?
They do.
Yeah, they got about $19 million this offseason. Because they realistically could re-sign everybody. It's just they're going to have to – they can't sign both Ekblad and Bennett for over 10, but I don't think that they're going to re-sign either one of those guys for over 10.
Yeah, they have 19, but they only have 16 players signed for next year.
So it's Bennett, Ekblad, Greer, and Samoskevich are the 4 guys that are UFAs. So Samoskevich and Greer, you can probably get on $1 million each, and then you can come back with Ekblad. He probably would take 9, and I think you can probably get Bennett for 8. You're right at the cap.
They got Samoskevich is an RFA. They have Nico Sturm, Sam Bennett, Thomas Nosek, Brad Marchand are all UFAs.
Oh yeah, Marshy too. I forgot about that.
On the back end, they have Ekblad, Nate Schmidt, Jacob Menga, who didn't really play. And then their backup goalie, Vanacek's a UFA too. So they need a backup goalie, they need 2 defensemen, and they need 3 forwards, basically.
With 19 million.
For 19. Yeah. That's a lot. For
maybe they don't get both
you look
Bennett
at the Kane situation,
Ekblad,
they're basically have their full roster signed, Realistically, I mean, they're missing 3 players I think they're lacking. But you can fill 2 of those 3 defensively, and then you really just need 1 forward. Honestly.
Yeah.
So let me pose another question to you guys. If we don't find a home for KK in a trade, do we buy him out?
I think so. I think that's the next best option because it's not going to work. They've tried it. They have. Rod's scratching him in the playoffs, man. Like, why are we hanging on to this horse? Why are we doing it? I don't understand.
The $6 million scratch.
He's not making.
If you're not going to play him, if you're going to scratch him in the Eastern Conference Final.
Well, 4. Sorry, Kyle. Yeah. They got his new contract's like 4.
But if you're gonna scratch him and you're not gonna rely on him and he's gonna be the guy that you're like, I'm gonna bump him down or he's gonna get scratched this game. It's like, just move on, man. That's $800,000. If he was making $800,000, you keep him around. But he's not. He's making $4 million. So that's tough. I'd buy him out.
The only thing I don't like about the buyout piece of it is it takes away $2.5 million a year for the next 6 years. Which, granted, we don't necessarily need the $2.5 million.
That's a drop in the bucket.
I get it, but in the same vein of breath, we have so much salary cap space as is. If we can get a second line center without having to even give away KK, or like somehow we do get Sam Bennett, if KK is just going in as either the 3rd or 4th line center, yeah, it's $4 million. It's a little bit on the steeper side for those guys, but I mean, we're paying Eric Stahl $3 million. Is he that much worth? I mean, if he was, that's the thing, is that we're putting him into a role that he does not fit into. So if we were to give him a role that he does fit, like a 3rd or 4th line center, and that's like his whole responsibility all year, I think he's a competent 3rd or 4th line center. He's not a second line, But I wouldn't go necessarily to a buyout if we don't find a home for him, because then all of a sudden we're then 6 years down the road. If for some reason we signed a couple guys in the offseason, we say we get Mitch Marner, we get Aaron Ekblad, and we get like just a crazy bunch of group of guys. And now all of a sudden next year down the road, we only have, $6 million to play with instead of 8.5. And now we got to figure out how to sign either Logan Stankover or Jackson Blake to a contract when they're probably going to command 8.5. Like, it just runs into issues down the line where, unless we absolutely need the extra $2 million a year in the salary cap to buy him out to get it down to only 2.5 or paying him, I don't see the need to buy him out unless, like I said, unless there's a need to do it. I don't want to, if we're just buying him out to get rid of him, I don't think that's the best option. I think throw him.
Well, no, but it frees up a roster spot, and so it frees up a lot of stuff that
100%.
I get it, and I'm not 100%.
I'd rather put him on waivers.
On board with it yet.
I'd rather put him on waivers than buy him out. That's fine.
Yeah, no, agreed. But you don't get
sorry, I'm looking at, because Puckpedia has a option, like if you hit you can buy this player out. Kokoniemi's annual cap hit for the next 2 years would be $841,000. And then for the 3 years after that, it would be $461,000.
Okay, so that number then, because that makes a front heavy contract. So yes, that makes definitely a difference. But again, it's just like, do you think he's a good fourth line center?
I think he's a good fourth line center. I don't think he's a good second or third line center.
Okay.
I think the third line center role is beyond him at the moment, because that's more of a shutdown. I don't think he replaces a direct replacement for Jordan Staal or that type of player. But I think fourth line, for my opinion, he's a fourth line center at this point.
And he's just making too much to be a fourth line center.
But we have the space right now. That's where I'm getting at. Is like, if we didn't have the space.
Yeah, but if you can buy him out and it only hits $800K on that cap, because if you wait. So the thing about the buyout is, so annual buyout cost, the cash cost of the buyout is the remaining salary multiplied either 2/3 or 1/3 for players under 26.
So as he gets older.
Once he gets older, it's 2/3 of the contract. So that's where you look at it like, hey, this is really the year you have to buy him out, because I think he's 23 this year.
Or 24. So he turns 25 in the offseason. So we technically have until next season and before whenever his birthday is.
So, I mean, if you really wanted to keep him one more year before buying him out, but if you wait till after 26, it goes to 2/3 of the cost of the contract multiplied by the years remaining. Basically, is how it works out.
So that all of a sudden, that does change it a little bit for sure.
Sorry about that. A little bit of technical difficulty. So we're back at it now. We got everything squared away. So KK buyout was the last topic before we had to break away for a second. So, I think we all agree that it's, at the lower rate, depending on his age too. And I think he's a 2000 birth year, Kyle. So I think he's probably at that 25, if he's not, 20.
He's turning 25.
Yeah, so he's in that 25 range. So to Cam's point, this is the summer. This is the summer to do it. To
26. So we technically have an extra year if we want to hold on.
So we could buy him out before his birthday next summer.
Before July 1st next summer.
Yeah, his birthday's July 6th. So yeah, we would have to. Yeah, we have to buy him out.
It would be before July 1st next year. So the only reason I'm on the fence with the holding on is because for some reason, and I'm not saying I want to keep him long term, but for some reason he's able to put up 35, 40 points next season, and he becomes trade bait and becomes more valuable in the trade market. We still have that asset versus just buying him.
I know that's the magic. That's the black magic.
So,
let me look at my crystal ball and say, is he gonna be a 30 goal scorer or 40 goal scorer?
No, if he fits in a good trade this offseason, go with it. Like but I'm just like, if we can't get him into a trade in this offseason, does it make sense to hold on to him just to possibly see if we can maybe get a package together at the deadline that all of a sudden brings an asset back to where a team needs a center? I don't know what the best case scenario is, but I do agree. I think it's a new change of scenery
for him and us. Yeah, no, agreed.
Scenario.
Yeah.
It's just figuring out where that scenery is.
So Camp, who on the UFA side is out there? I know we've been talking a lot about RFAs, but from the UFA side, I mean, who kind of fits that first line, second line, center potential role, or a top defenseman, or a right-handed defenseman that we're kind of looking for at the moment?
Yeah, I mean, obviously the biggest UFAs out there right now. Talk about like John Tavares, Mitch Marner, Jamie Benn's still out there as well. He hasn't signed a new contract. Obviously got Ekblad, Provorov is another one, Brock Besser. Let me look here and see.
Wouldn't mind seeing
Matt
Brock Besser
Duchene
brought in at the
is
right
another
number.
one.
I think that could be a good pickup.
Nikolai Ehlers, Ryan Donato is another one. He's a center.
Ehlers would also be another one.
Brock Nelson is a UFA as well.
Now there's a second line,
but
third line center.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I think he's in that
sort of
spot that
it's another
in,
guy.
He's in the same scenario that Aho is between a first and second line.
He's between second and third.
No, he's between
no.
second and
That's
third,
what I'm saying.
Brock
He's not
Nelson
quite
at
a
this
first, but he's not quite a second. But he's not quite a. He's definitely a third.
He's definitely a third, if not a little bit better than a third. Yeah.
He's a solidified third, a questionable second. That's where it kind of is. If he's on his game, he can be a second line, a very competent second line center. One name, and I know it's going back to RFAs. Well, two names I'm going to bring up. I wouldn't mind seeing Carolina take a stab at Brad Marchand, just because he just came off surgery the previous year before. I think he has more game left in the tank than what we saw this previous season. He can be a goal scorer. He can be a power play guy. He can also be a pest and be a rat. And especially when he's not in the captain role, he can open that bit of his game up a lot more. And I think Carolina desperately needs it. It does make us shorter as well, too, which I don't love. But it's not worth it if we can get him at the right number and it makes sense. I do still think that he somehow ends up back in Boston, but that kind of remains to be seen. But one guy, and I really doubt that he's going to leave the area because I think Anaheim will match whatever offer sheet comes his way, but I would really like to see if we can make a bid at Mason McTavish, because I think that that's one of those guys where he's not Sam Bennett yet, but he has all the makings of being a Sam Bennett-esque player, where he can be a little bit grimy and greasy. He's a very good 200-foot player. He can put the puck in the back of the net. He can produce offense. He can do all that kind of stuff. I just don't see a world where Anaheim's not, especially because they have the cap. I don't see a world where they're not matching an offer that's not exorbitant, where it's a complete overpayment. So I don't think he's going to be readily available. But another name that is Marco Rossi out of Minnesota. I'm kind of interested to see what you guys think, because another center, but they're a little bit more up against the cap, especially because Kaprizov needs a new contract as well, too, because they're not going to let him go this full season.
Yeah, but he's small, too.
So
I don't love the height. He's 5'9". McTavish is 6'1", so that automatically puts McTavish ahead for me for Rossi. Although I see, and Rossi only had a couple more points than McTavish during the year. I mean, Rossi had 60. I think McTavish was in the mid-50s. So I genuinely, I need, if the Canes are going to get a center, like a 1 or 2 center, it needs to be a bigger guy. It really does. Like they already have enough small guys. Like they don't need more. They got Blake, they got Stankoven, they got Jarvis, you go down the list. So if it was up to me, if it was like, hey, you got one of these two guys, who you picking? I'm going McTavish. Yeah.
Oh, 100%. Like I said, I don't see a world, because Anaheim's not up against the cap, that they're not matching anything that a team's going to put out there. Because in all honesty, I think the absolute max that you would see a offer sheet for him at would be like 8.5, 9. And that's, even then, I think a little bit of an overpayment currently from where he's at right at this moment. But I still, even at 8.5, 9, I don't see a world Anaheim's not sitting there going, sure, I'll take him at 8.5.
At the same time, do you pull a Kokniemi and do you over offer on the offer sheet? Because look at that, you got to give up for what for him, a first round if he signs.
So anything over 10 million, you're giving up 3 first-round picks, 3 second-round picks, 3 third-round picks, and a fourth. You're giving up basically your
No,
whole
I get
draft for the
that.
next 3
I
years.
get that, but what do you give up if he's under 10?
Then it depends on where the
Okay.
number lies. So in the 9 to 9 or 9 to 9.99999 million range, it's like 2 first, 2 seconds, 2 thirds, and a fourth or something like that. And then as you go down, it just lessens and lessens the load. Because when we got Kokaniemi, we gave up a first, a second, or a first and 2 second round picks when we got KK.
So that's the $6 million.
again,
So what is
just,
McTavish? What is he going to
That's at
command as
6.
far as the salary goes?
To get him out of Anaheim, we're gonna have. It's gonna be. That's what I just said. I said there's not a world where he's not getting. He's gonna get an offer sheet at $8.5, $9 million, and there's not a world Anaheim's not sitting there signing that check in a heartbeat. They're gonna sign that check. The 8.5, 9. That's the same as like Aho got. Like when Aho wasn't worth that number, it's gonna either have to be a trade or somebody's gonna have to be willing to give up their next
basically
3 years of drafting in order
selling
to get
the
this
farm
guy.
for him.
And you're gonna have to sign him at like. You're not signing him for like a 1-year deal at like $12.5 million in order to even get Anaheim to think about it. But even then, at a 1-year deal, I don't see Anaheim being like, they can afford it. I think they got $40 million in the bank for the offseason, this upcoming, like they have the money. That's why I don't like, I know the name is out there. I just don't see a world that McTavish is actually getting moved out unless it's a trade. Like
I mean, there's a lot of good RFAs though, for sure. I mean, even a guy like Morgan Geekie, he's an RFA, and he put up almost 60 points last year. No, actually, sorry, he put up over 70, I believe. Yeah, no, 57 points.
Yes,
he had 33 goals and 24 assists.
Also playing with David Pastrnak. Yes, also playing with David Pastrnak. So let's just put that asterisk next to it because I don't think he's putting up that level of numbers if he's doesn't have David Pastrnak as his winger who put up 100 points on a terrible Boston team.
Yeah.
What about him? I mean, he's not an RFA, is he?
Who?
Pasta? No, he'd be a UFA in his next contract, and he just signed a new one this past offseason for like 9.5 or 10. No,
they're another team that's interesting. Like, are they? But obviously, they don't have the same question marks that we are talking about with Buffalo because they have been a good team for a long time. So, are they going to go into a full blown rebuild? Are they going to retool? Are they going to, what do you?
I think it's going to be more retool than anything else because they do have cap space this offseason. They're losing a lot off the books, so they're definitely opening themselves up to having more cap space. Cam, please check me on this one, but I want to say it's in the 20s, if not just below 20 in cap space in this offseason. So I don't see a world where they trade away any of the 3 main guys that they have there now, and I think they're going to try and retool completely around that portion. So I don't see them getting rid of Swayman. I don't see them getting rid of McAvoy, and I don't see them getting rid of Pastrnak, and I think they try and hem everything around that area. So I see them making a big stab at, Sam Bennett to get a center there, even possibly looking at a trade in order to get Pettersson out of Vancouver. They need center depth there, and they need forward depth. That's their biggest thing, but I don't know how much they have in cap space.
They got 26.2, but they got a lot of guys they need to sign. So,
well, you go through the list, and I think a majority of them are not re-signing there next year.
Active roster, they're at 14 out of 23 signed, and they have 26.2 in cap. They got a lot of restricted free agents, like quite a bit. Cole Kepke's a UFA. Parker Wotherspoon's a UFA. Henry Jokiharju's a UFA. Mason Lohrei is an RFA. That's an interesting one. I think they're definitely going to keep him around for sure. Goalies are locked up for a while, so it's really they have 4 defensemen signed, and they have 8 forwards signed. So they need 2 defensemen and 4 forwards, really, plus some depth guys as well.
Yeah, they'll get a couple of those guys back, a couple of those forwards like that. The first guy you said, the
Wotherspoon.
He scored like 20. No, not Wotherspoon. He's a defenseman.
Cole Koepke.
Yeah, he'll resign at like
he's a
maybe
UFA,
$1.5 million,
so
$2
we'll
million for a couple of seasons. So there'll be a couple guys that'll resign for lower value. But that's one of those ones where I think with that Boston being a team that they got a massive boost when the salary cap went up, because all of a sudden it freed themselves up to have to kind of avoid this rebuild because they don't have draft picks or anything. They're gonna have to build their team through free agency. So it's going to be tough sledding, but I don't see them going, I'm trading away everything and just restarting from scratch. I don't see the Jacobs ownership doing that. They make their living by just being relevant enough to get some playoff games in every year. That's their goal. You know, let's get 3 extra home games every year, and then I'm good. That's like, let me get a couple extra million in the back pocket. Let's be good enough to make it. But it's going to be a very heavy road for them to rebuild to anything like substantial at this point. So I think it's going to be pure retool.
The more I'm looking at it, like their 3 forwards that they have signed that are having they really have 4 forwards that are on their biggest contracts. I mean, they got Pasternak, obviously. Elias Lindholm is on a 7.75 until 2031. Casey Middlestat is on 5.7.
But if he's your second center, yeah. If they can get a number 1 center and Lindholm's your second line guy and he's your second line center, all of a sudden it does open it up. And that was kind of where Morgan Geekie was coming in and making a big difference because he was taking over that first line center role. But you can get a true number 1 first line. Elias Lindholm is a perfect 2C because he's a shutdown second line center. The issue is they brought him in expecting him to be a number 1 and he's not that guy. And like, that's where like even he makes me think that Aho is closer to a number 1 center because I think he's right on the cusp of it. But if you can go and add a bigger center than Sebastian Aho and all of a sudden Aho is your number 2, if Aho is your number 2, you have a Stanley Cup winning roster. That's kind of the point that I was getting at with that conversation earlier. I kind of wanted to clear that up in the air. It's not that Aho's not a number 1 center, but if he is your second line center, you have an absolute squad together. Like your center depth is unbelievable if Sebastian Aho is your 2C. So that I just wanted to clear that portion up because I don't want anybody thinking that I'm not saying Aho's a 1C. He is. It's just if we can get somebody better than Aho at 1C, our center depth is insane.
No, I agree. I like the way
Would you guys take a stab at Brock
I would.
Besser?
Probably not.
Another
I don't
40
know.
goal guy.
I don't know. I mean, I for the right price, obviously.
Vancouver guys. I'm gonna be honest. I really don't.
But about a guy like not even how about Elias Pettersson? I mean he's probably
no.
Yeah,
I mean I think he's going to be out there. They've already been sniffing around. Him. Being part of a trade coming here.
11.6, no shot.
Not at not at his contract. 11.6.
No,
man.
I'm there, but
Aho and he's making more money.
just reporting what I hear. So
I think, in all honesty, and call me crazy, I think he ends up in Boston.
That's something.
That's where I think Pettersson ends his offseason is in Boston.
I don't know.
Well, they definitely.
I don't know how they get it
definitely
done,
need need that center position. So, but we'll see. So
all right. I got one thing, and then we can kind of go around the horn and finish up here. So Cam, don't leave this one out, but I wanted to ask Dad this question. I asked them yesterday. So there have been 3 teams in NHL history to never finish in the bottom 5 of the standings in the NHL. Can you name the 3 teams? I'll give you a hint. 2 of them are
newer teams,
newer organizations
that have not finished in the bottom 5.
Never finished in the bottom 5 of a regular
season.
Of
the overall NHL.
Just the NHL regular season, I've never finished in the lottery picks, so the bottom 5 standings. There's been 3 teams to never do it.
Wow, that's a great question. I would say I'm going to take a stab at it. I'm probably going to be wrong, but to never finish in the bottom 5.
I gave you 2 with a big hint. 2 new teams.
Newer teams. I mean, I guess. I mean, Utah is probably one of them.
Utah is one of them. Yep.
Did you Utah is one of them. Let's say I wouldn't say Florida. No.
Go to the one more newer team. Let's get two of these out of the way.
Seattle.
No, the
Newer.
iteration
Oh,
before
Vegas.
Seattle.
Okay, so Vegas.
There's the other one. Okay.
And then the other one's
Vegas and Utah. And then the other one, I'll give you an even bigger hint. They were founded in 1997. Well, not maybe founded, but
that'd be us
in
then.
1997 as part of that.
No, really.
No. We have finished in the bottom 5.
Oh,
you
yeah.
Remember the Ryan Murphy draft in 2015? Got him 4th overall.
Yeah.
What a steal.
1997. They relocated in 97. Gosh, I don't know. I don't know who relocated in 97. I know we did, but not Calgary.
Nope. I'll give you one more, and then we'll move on, so we're not sitting here. One more guess.
Let's say.
Give you a hint. They've had an organization before this new variation of the organization. There was another.
Well, is it Winnipeg? Wow.
Nope.
Man, I don't know. You gave me one guess.
Minnesota Wild.
Oh.
Yep, the Wild have never finished in the bottom 5.
I didn't realize they came back into existence in 97.
That's when they were relocated again from.
Well, no, they were an expansion
they weren't relocated again. Yeah,
they were an expansion team.
They were an expansion team. So sorry, they weren't.
Yeah, he kind of hit you over the head with a
bat.
Told you it was a piece of
I know.
fish,
yeah.
So
that's
your fault,
the issue,
then, man. It's not mine. See?
Yeah, come on.
That's on me.
Right.
I just thought that was crazy that they've been around since 1997 and never finished in the bottom 5 of the league.
Wow, interesting.
And then the other longest standing one, there's 2 other ones. Dallas has not been in the bottom 5 since 1992. And then the New York Rangers, it's been since 1967 since they've been a lottery pick team.
It's crazy.
And yet
I was going to say,
one cup in that time. How do you manage that?
They're just good enough to not win at all.
Just good enough not to suck.
Yep.
Yeah. So
they were close this year.
Yeah.
They were really close.
They're in the running.
Yeah.
So. All right. Well, I guess one more swing around the horn here to see if we got any last final thoughts on the 24-25 season. So we'll take it away from there.
Not really. I mean,
we finished well above expectations.
Yep.
So I'm happy with where we're at. Yes, I'm pissed off the way it ended. Yes, I'm upset because I think Carolina could have made way more of that series than they did. Sure. Yes, XYZ. We said at the beginning of the year, and a lot of pundits said at the beginning of the year, we think they might end up missing playoffs. I had them as my 3rd team in the Metro to possibly, and even going into a wild card spot. We were saying this could be a wild card team at the beginning of the year if they do make it into playoffs. To make it as the 2nd seed and to make it all the way to the Eastern Conference Finals, win the Metro division yet again. You know what? I'm taking it. Like, you win the Metro through playoffs, I should say. They didn't actually win the Metro division, but like, you get out of the Metro in playoffs yet again. I'm taking it. Like, we are close. We are on the cusp of being a genuine, true dynasty contender because we have all the right pieces in place. It's just about adding around those pieces. And I think that this is one of those off seasons where you kind of set the tone for the future. So hopefully Tulski is on the ball and can get some good contracts done like he did last off season. Because if he does what he did last offseason, I'm taking another Sean Walker at $3.6 million. I don't know where we find whoever that is, but sure, let's do it. So, like I said, overall positive. I think Carolina did as good as they could have done. They just ran into an absolute juggernaut.
Yep.
Florida.
Yeah, I agree. I think the message for the season for those out there is like we overachieved based on the initial expectation, based on our lineup, based on all the players that we lost. I mean, we lost a ton and a ton of really impactful players. So I was disappointed we lost, but at the end of it, Florida was the better team. And they were the better team in the East. And we overachieved for what we expected early on in the season. So we'll see. And I agree. I hope Tulski is, he puts on the wizard hat again and comes up with some good acquisitions and makes us even that much better. Because Florida is set the stage for what teams need to look like to compete and to win consistently in the NHL. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, I got nothing really else to add. I mean, they definitely overachieved though. So again, we all had them. I had them as a bubble team, making the playoffs and maybe winning a round. So the fact that they made it to the Eastern Conference Final, and this team has won more games in the playoffs than any other previous team for the past since 06, since 19 years. So,
yeah,
obviously it's just one more, but hey, that's one more than they've had the last 19. So,
we got
yeah,
over
you got
that
over the
curse or
hump.
whatever
So that's
was
what
riddling us.
that
So that's a
was.
big positive as well too. We got
That
a
was
win.
that was definitely a positive. So hopefully they can build off that, and obviously a lot of the guys are coming back too that went through that together. So that's never a bad thing. So yeah,
no, never,
overall
absolutely.
good year. We'll see how either annoying or exciting the cup final is this year. But overall good year though for sure.
So before we,
Oh,
yeah,
that's the one final thing I want.
before
Yeah,
we leave,
yeah.
before we sign
Go ahead,
off,
Ted.
let's do our cup final predictions. I think I think maybe it'll be unanimous, maybe it won't be. But so Kyle, I think we know where you're going, but we'll start with you.
Yeah, I think you guys all know the team I'm going to be picking. I think the number of games might shock you. I think Edmonton does it in
Wow.
5. I don't think it's much of a series. I think this is because I started seeing it in the latter half of the Carolina series. Granted, they're getting a couple days rest right now. Florida's tired, and they got some guys dealing with some injuries. Not saying that Edmonton doesn't, but they're just getting Matthias Ekholm back. I think he played. Did he play the last game, or he's going to be playing game 1? So he's now fresh and ready to go. McDavid really hasn't gotten going yet, and once he does, it's going to be scary. And I think he started to in the last 2 games, and that's the crazy part is that he's got 30 points, and I really still don't feel like he's been 100% himself. Like I think he's got more to give, and there's no ounce of me that has how we always like one superstar can't win you a series, and I get it. They have Leon Draisaitl as well too. But after last year and the emotions on Connor McDavid of losing in the finals, I genuinely think he is going to do absolutely everything in his God-given power to take over the series. And I would not be surprised in the first 4 games he's got 20 points. That's a bit exaggerated, maybe 3 points a game, but I think he's going to be an absolute menace. I think that the one thing Florida does struggle with is off the rush, especially against teams with a lot of speed, and that's what Edmonton has, is a ton of speed, and they're one of the best teams off the rush as well too. So that's where Toronto exposed them. Carolina doesn't play a lot off the rush, and that's where we could never really get to them as well too. So I think Edmonton does it in 5.
Yeah, I mean,
all right.
I think it really depends on, because losing Hyman's not great. That's big for them. I mean, he was basically their body. He was throwing his weight around constantly. Was leading the playoffs in hits, I believe. So that's a tough loss for them. I mean, I think if Edmonton doesn't go down 0-3 in the hole, I think they can win. I don't see Florida losing. I can't. I don't know. I just can't. I can't see it. I really can't. If Bob is playing the way Bob can play, if their defense has played like they've played the whole playoffs, and if their offense is just as dominant and pressure heavy, I know McDavid will try and carry the team, but I just don't see it, man. I can't bet against Florida knowing how strong they are. I mean, they're so dominant. I think it goes 7. I do think it goes 7 again. So I'll pick Florida in 7.
Wow. This is going to go the way of goaltending, in my opinion. Whoever wins the goaltending battle, I think, if Skinner plays the way that he's been playing, I think Edmonton wins the series. But if he doesn't, then, Florida's going to expose. They're going to expose them. So I'm on the fence on this one. Yesterday I was Edmonton. Today I was Florida. The day before I was Edmonton. So it's just like I'm kind of I'm a little bit wishy washy on this one. So I'm gonna stamp it where I think that based on what I saw, I think Florida goes back to back. I think they're gonna go back to back with or without the McDavid effect. I think he's gonna unfortunately suffer another heartbreak. So I think it's gonna be Florida. I'm gonna go with Cam. I think it's gonna go all 7. I think Florida's just gonna they're just gonna outgrind them, outwork
wear him
them.
down. Yeah.
They're gonna wear him down, and they're gonna frustrate the hell out of McDavid and Draisaitl. So anyway, so we got to go off the board, Kyle, because you kicked our ass in the first 3 rounds. So
Yeah.
we can't we're going to bet against you just because.
Well, that's because you guys keep
I
betting against
know.
Edmonton.
That is true.
I know.
And they
That's the
keep
only
winning.
reason I'm winning. You guys
so
keep
you're
betting
welcome.
against them.
Yeah.
I know. So we did you a favor, but
Yeah, we're
That's the
doing you a
one
favor.
team that's gotten me.
so this is a winner take all. So
sure.
the winner of
I'll
this
take
one
more
wins the whole
points.
bet. So.
Oh, sure. Yeah,
right.
no, not because I'm up by 1,000 points already.
Yeah, no worries. So anyway, I got Florida in 7, Cam Florida in 7, and Kyle's staying close to home with the Oilers. He's been with them all playoffs. So 5 games. So we'll see what happens.
Hey, all I gotta say, gentlemen, is ask Dallas how the depth did against Florida or against Edmonton, because that's what you guys said in the last round was the depth of Dallas is going to kill Edmonton.
I know we're going to live by the sword, die by the sword, man. So,
yeah, Canada's getting their cup this year.
I appreciate your loyalty.
I appreciate
your loyalty to the team that's gotten you to the Stanley Cup final. So, anyway, so puck drop I think is 8:00 on Wednesday. I think Wednesday's game 1.
Wednesday.
It'll be in Edmonton, I believe.
Edmonton's got home ice this year.
Edmonton's got home ice. They do, yeah. Really? So Edmonton's got home ice. So we'll see what happens. But anyway, so this will wrap the 24-25 season for us. We'll be back intermittently between now and the trade deadline, which is July 1st. Clock starts at noon. It's not trade deadline, free agency. Sorry, let me correct that. And we'll see what happens with the Canes, and if between now and then they make any trades, we'll come at you and give our 2 cents on it if we come across anything. So until next season, where we hope to have the same conversation as we're making a deep playoff run and hopefully making one step closer than we did the last handful of years. So we'll until then, Kyle, Cam, and myself we'll bid you adieu for the season, but we'll be back when anything interesting happens. But if you got any questions, we appreciate everybody that's listened and gotten us to this point. So we'll sign off for this year and be back at you soon. So take care and have a great week.